Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get started now. Thank you so much for being here today. We're really looking forward to this event, and it's just such a treat to have all of these great Fullbright alumni here with us at America House. So as you know, we're here for the workshop, The Future of Higher Education, Internationalization in Ukraine. And this is just a really great opportunity for the great minds of Ukraine, the great Fulbrighters of Ukraine, to get together and discuss how we can be part of the change in higher education in Ukraine. So thank you so much for being here. To open our event today, we have Ina Zdor from the U.S. Embassy to give some opening remarks. So Ina.
Thank you, Christian. Доброго дня, шановне панство. Щиро рада вас вітати тут сьогодні. По-перше, дозвольте подякувати нашій Ліз, не бачу, Шепетильникові, яка є одним з організаторів сьогоднішнього заходу, зібрала всіх нас тут. В рамках гранту, який підтримувало посольство минулорічного для Ліз. Також щиро дякуємо Американському дому за те, що завжди так гостинно приймаєте всі наші заходи. Та, звичайно, програмі Fullbright в Україні в особі пані Марти, яка вже 25 років успішно відбирає кандидатів, відправляє на навчання до Сполучених Штатів, які, ми впевнені, є для вас life-changing. По крайній мірі, ми так сподіваємося щиро. Зі свого боку, посольство активно підтримує випускників програм американського уряду різними способами. Це і окрема програма грантів для випускників програм, що підтримуються американським урядом. Це різноманітні освітні та професійні можливості професійного зростання. Я з вами сьогодні маю радість бути протягом всього заходу. Буду щиро рада розповісти більш детально про ці всі можливості. В нас вони всі розміщені на сторінці Посольства Сполучених Штатів Америки. Так само є окрема сторінка в Фейсбуці, яка є US Government Alumni Ukraine. Можете її зафоловити, там ми регулярно розповідаємо про всі наші новинки і можливості. І так само будемо раді вас запросити разом з Крістієн долучитися 15 червня. В нас розпочинається Alumni Month in America House. 15 червня саме велике відкриття. Ми сподіваємося, що до нас зможе доєднатися пані посол. Буде велика кількість різноманітних заходів зараз на Фейсбуці посольства та всіх партнерів, так само як Fullbright, інших програм. Ви можете знайти об'яву, в якій більш детально розповідається про цей чудовий захід. Так само ви можете долучитись до участі, розповісти, заповнити аплікаційну форму, розповісти свою історію, як на вас вплинула ваша навчання в Сполучених Штатів і взяти участь в чудовому фотоконкурсі. Тоді ви побачите себе на великій стіні Alumni в американському домі. Дякую за вашу увагу. Бажаю вам сьогодні плідного заходу. Будь ласка, буду дуже щиро рада поділитися всією інформацією про можливості, які посольство надає для випускників програм. Дякую. Пані Марто, будь ласка.
Дуже дякую, Інно. Дякую, вас вітаю. Я дуже рада, що ми могли зібратися. Я хочу перш за все подякувати Education USA в персоні Лізи, яка нас зорганізувала сьогодні, як і також посольство за завжди підтримку Fullbright і завжди гостинність America House. Дякую, Кристіан, що ми сьогодні можемо тут зібратися. І I'm going to switch to English now because I think that we had decided that the working language today would be English. So I would like to once again thank everybody for attending and most importantly for this opportunity to informally discuss Fullbright, our 25th anniversary, which is coming up this fall, how Fullbright can be an agent of change in Ukraine. Returning Fulbrighters and American scholars and students visiting together to work together to reform not only education, but many different fields: economics, law, anti-corruption initiatives, local government initiatives, journalism, the sciences, and so on and so forth. So because we are thinking of doing this in a very informal setting, I'd like for everybody to I know that a lot of you know each other, but for everybody to introduce themselves and where they were on their Fulbright to kind of give us a flavor of our audience today. So I think if we can start with Serhiy.
Thank you. I'm Serhiy Kurbatov. I am currently head of Department of Leadership. I am Serhiy Kurbatov. Currently, I am head of Department of Leadership and Institutional Development at Institute of Higher Education, National Academy of Educational Sciences of Ukraine. Also, I am elected Deputy Head of National Agency for Higher Education Quality Assurance. I'm FDP alumnus. In 2003-2004, I spent a very important and crucial in my biography year at Brown University in Providence.
Hi, I'm Pavlo Kutuyev. I'm a department chair of sociology at Kyiv Polytechnic Institute, and I spent an academic year 2002 at NYU at the Graduate School of Public Service, and it was life-transforming and life-changing experience for me. Thanks to Fullbright.
Hi, Mikhailo Kirsenko, Fulbrighter at the University of Kansas, former Fulbrighter. And then I spent a very fruitful year at the Kennan Institute, currently professor of Kyiv-Mohyla Academy and a couple of other universities in Ukraine and abroad. Thank you.
Байсара Людмила, Dnipropetrovsk National University. I've been on the Fulbright program twice. In 2001, Salt Lake City, and 2012 and 13, the University of Pittsburgh. Both made a crucial change in my outlook and is making changes in the outlooks of my students.
Thank you. My name is Svetlana Zhabotinskaya. Then I was also twice a Fulbright scholar. Then so the first Fulbright was with the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and that was the exposure to the American Schools of Linguistic Pragmatics. Then I'm a linguist. And the second Fulbright was then with the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, La Jolla. And there was then, so the exposure to different schools of cognitive linguistics, since I am a cognitive scientist, cognitive linguist, and actually I am a blend, as all cognitive science is a blend of psychology, philosophy, psychology, the linguistics, then and whatnot, then education. And then so that was really a very important experience, then, so which I hope then we will discuss then, and which have remodeled us as personalities, as scholars, as educators. Then, thank you.
Okay, can I sit here, not standing up? I'm Sergei Ziptsev, and I'm professor at Silviculture Department of National University of Life Environmental Science, also director of Regional Eastern European Fire Monitoring Center. And I think I was the first forester researcher who actually joined the Fullbright program, first wave.
But you started a good trend.
And yes, after me, then another group of foresters. So I was 2004. I spent 2004-2005 at Yale University, and thanks to Fulbright program, they helped me to actually visit it 12 years after this year in Fulbright forum, Forest Forum. And I hope that year was not only crucial for my career, but I think it's also crucial for environmental security in Ukraine, because since that time we worked a lot and generate some funds to do ground changes here in Ukraine, and now we are working on this. Thank you.
I'm Sergei Sherbina. I spent almost a year in Wisconsin University, Madison. My project was focused on agricultural milk cooperatives development. I've been a Fulbright scholar only once. And
it's a lot more than a lot of other people.
I think it would be a huge privilege to have another one. But actually, why I'm not applying for the Fulbright second time, because now I see many opportunities to develop here in Ukraine, connected with the association agreement between Ukraine and the European Union. And now I am involved in several projects of European Commission in Ukraine, and work as a food safety expert. And together with my colleague, Professor Borodina, we developed and continue to strengthen the Ukrainian rural development network, which is very inspiring for us, and we will make everything possible. It will be up to the European and American and world standards. Many ideas we implement here in Ukraine during this very important stage of the European integration we brought from the United States. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Sergei. I am Olena Borodina. I am head of Department of Economy and Policy of Agrarian Transformation in National Institute for Economics and Forecasting of National Academy of Sciences. I have a good opportunity to visit to Wisconsin Madison University, and the results in 2008-2009, and the results of my visit was established in our institute new scientific school, rural development and community economic development, and my experience very important because I support postgraduate student in develop of this approach to rural development in Ukraine. Okay, thank you.
My name is Irina Volinets. I'm a PhD student in the Department of Architecture at Lviv Polytechnic National University. And I'm also a principal of Volinets Architectural Bureau in Lviv, Ukraine. In 2015-2016, I've been visiting Fulbright researcher at the University of Oregon, and my research was focused on landform architecture. In my practical work and also academical work, my focus lies on the intersection between buildings and landscape, and I'm interested in the potential of involving topography, territory, geography, ecology, and urban infrastructures into architecture.
Hi, my name is Artem Gavrish. I've spent 2 years and I did my master's degree in industrial engineering at the University of Missouri Columbia in 2010-2012. Since then I work at Samsung Research and Development Center here in Kyiv, and I do mostly, well, I'm just a humble engineer and I do mostly the machine learning and other computer science things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for coming here. It's absolutely thrilling to have you all on board today. My name is Shipton Likova. I'm a Fullbright graduate student alumni who doesn't do as exciting stuff and is engineering. I'm an international education professional. I work currently for Education USA here in Ukraine. And once again, welcome, thank you for coming, and I'm very much looking forward to our discussions.
Hello, my name's Anton Tkach. I'm from Australia, if you haven't understood from the accent. I work as an English language consultant at the Ukrainian State Center for International Education, where my boss is from. She'll be here very soon. And my boss told me to come along.
My name is Olena Prokopchuk. I'm Fullbright Program Assistant.
Hi, my name is Igor Poshevailo. I spent as a Fulbright scholar in 2009-2010 at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., researching interpretation of cultural heritage. And I hope my experience was life-changing, and it brought me to my current position as a director of the National Memorial to the Heavenly Hundred and the Revolution of Dignity Museum. So we try to create the new world-class museum based on my experience, knowledge, and American best practices. Thank you.
I'm Svetlana Shlipchenko, and currently I'm a director of research programs at Kyiv Mohyla Academy. And I spent my Fulbright research scholar. I was a Fulbright scholar at Penn State in 2002-2003.
Oh, thanks.
I am Anatoly Rusnachenko. I visited USA, United States, in 2001-2002. Arrived September 10, so I have some another experience to see Americans and New York and the country. It was very useful for me. I visited Columbia University, Harriman Institute, and it's gave me a great experience in Soviet and post-Soviet history, and the results of it is some books and another great experience. Now I am professor of Institute of Ecology, Economy and Law in Kyiv. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I am Maxim Vakulenko. I did my Fulbright research devoted to phonetic study of English and Ukrainian speech sounds in 2003-2004 at the University of Texas at Arlington. Among the outcomes of this research that may be of great practical importance, I would emphasize first possibility to improve the syllabi of phonetics in Ukrainian and in general phonetics. Second, possibility to map, to do scientifically grounded mapping of speech sounds in Ukrainian and English. And third, possibility to use these findings in modern and brand new systems of speech recognition. As for practical applications, Ukraine is not interested in these results, I think this is due to low level of phonetic studies here in Ukraine, but the interest in abroad is quite different. First, the international company Lion-Based Technologies has been interested in these studies and invited me to join their project devoted to development of TTS in Ukrainian and other world languages. Second, company Odyssey, that is based at the Silicon Valley, California, get interested in these outcomes for possibilities to include them in their modern speech recognition systems. So I am open to any propositions to collaborate in this field. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Olga Grisco. I am from the Institute of Journalism, Kiev-Tarasevchenko National University. And I had an opportunity to visit the United States in 2011 as a participant of SUSY program, Summer University of the United States. It was a really great experience for me and for my students and for my colleagues, because when I came back, I shared that experience, and I would like to continue. So I will apply to the Fullbright program this year, I hope. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alexei Furman. I'm a Ukrainian photojournalist, and I was a Fulbright graduate student in University of Missouri, Columbia. Hey, in 2014, 2015, and after that, I came back to Ukraine to work in my project. I'm very grateful to Christiane. My project was exhibited in America House in December this year. It's so I came back to Ukraine to work on a project about the heavily injured Ukrainian soldiers that come back from the war zone and how they adapt to peaceful life back home. And it's a photography series. And I've recently come back from my master's project Defense, and it was successful. Yay! So now I'm officially a Fulbright alumni.
I'm Lesto, Katerina Lest. Hello, my name is Ella Lamach. I'm from Kiev. I was in the USA in Washington, D.C. 2015-2016. I was in Kennan Institute. Thank you, Kennan Institute, too. My issue was... Забула. No. My issue was social services for veterans, combatants, veterans for their family. I started to work with veterans in the USA and continue jobbing here in Ukraine. I have a lot of trainings, different regions in Ukraine. I have a lot of meetings with veterans, and I started work with veterans and their family about create gender-sensitive services for them. Thank you.
My name is Katya Smagli. I'm a Fulbrighter in 2012-2013 at the Kennan Institute. I did a research in social entrepreneurship and published the first monograph in Ukraine on this subject. Since then, I've been appointed director of the Kennan Institute office in Ukraine. Among the things that I think has transformed us all is this great spirit of civic duty and civic activism, and I think the Fulbright office has changed a lot since Marta Kolomeit has been appointed as director, because she, as a civic activist herself, inspired many Fulbrighters who, before that, mostly thought about themselves as academicians, as educators. Now we kind of cherish this new duty that has infected us in good, positive way after Euromaidan. And one of the areas which we try to push forward in Ukraine in the area of reform is the issue and area of cultural and public diplomacy. And this is indeed great that the America House supports so many initiatives of the Fulbright office, because America House is an example of public diplomacy, and it's a wonderful platform which helps us to implement a lot of initiatives as a team of Fulbright alums in Ukraine. Thank you, Marta.
Thank you, Katya. Thank you very much. And so we've now heard about the past. So this is what we did. Now I'd like to talk about the present, but today I'd like to focus on the future. What can Fulbright do? I really believe, first of all, I was never a Fulbrighter, but I do have been running the program in Ukraine for 4 years, and I just see what a powerhouse Fulbrighters are. And I was, as you were all talking, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if all of you were Kabmin and presidential administration? We could do changes within like 2-3 weeks. We'd get it done. We know what needs to get done because we've been to the States. We've seen how other not only the States, but in Europe, how other countries do change, how other countries move reform ahead. And I just want to talk a little bit about the future, because this year we do celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Fullbright program in Ukraine. Even though the program itself started in 1947, so last year, 46, 47, last year we celebrated 70 years of Fullbright worldwide. In Ukraine, it's been a force for the past 25 years. As long as U.S.-Ukraine diplomatic relations have existed, the programs existed in Ukraine. And over that period, over 1,000 Ukrainians have gone to the United States on student programs, research programs, scholar in residence programs, scholar programs. So we have quite a big database of people who belong to the Fullbright Alumni Association. Besides that, 650 Americans have come, have learned about Ukraine. What I love about this program is so many Americans do come back, do form relationships. We were talking about with Professor Zipsev, we were talking about environmental changes. University of Vermont has been to Ukraine many times, both at life sciences and at geoforestry. We've had a lot of Ukrainians interested in environmental change wanting to go to the United States and study. We have Fulbright students coming in this year who are going to be studying environmental science. So it's an ongoing cycle, and I think that this kind of program that promotes academic, cultural, public diplomacy exchanges really will make Ukraine grow. Hopefully we'll see changes. So this year, I think all of you received the Save the Date card for October 12th. This year in Kyiv, we are celebrating 25 years officially. We've invited Alan Goodman, who is the president of the Institute of International Education, which administers the Fulbright program here in Ukraine. He is a world-class educator, and he will be speaking at a forum. We've also had many discussions with the Ministry of Education and Science. We are hoping to hold a forum for 100 rectors, because I think one of the important things is to reach leaders of higher education. And very often they may not know about the program. They may not know what kind of jewels they have amongst their people teaching at their universities. And some of them may be resistant to change, but that can't last forever. That's what I'm hoping. It can't last forever. And we can show one of our aims holding this 25th anniversary celebration is for the Ministry of Education, for rectors to recognize what kind of changes are possible. We have to move ahead. We have to move into the 21st century. We cannot be stuck back in Soviet times, and we can't use that excuse, but we've always done it this way. No, it's time for change, and it's time to move ahead and show different kinds of reforms that can take place to move Ukraine ahead. So October 12th, we are planning to invite 100 rectors from all over Ukraine to the Ministry of Education, where we will hold a education forum, a Svitny forum, for the rectors to meet up with our Fulbright alumni and to also meet with the Ministry of Education and talk about these changes. Alan will be delivering a keynote address that day. We'll hold a roundtable discussion about what kind of changes are moving forward. So we're hoping that all of you can participate in that as well. And then we are also having an evening reception to really celebrate all of the successes. There have been a lot of challenges for Fulbright in the past, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of challenges for Fulbright in the future. We never know what our budget is going to be like. We never know how many people can come to Ukraine, how many Ukrainians we can send to the United States. And on that note, I want to say that this year we have good news, because yesterday we got the notice that all of our Fulbrighters who applied this year and the alternates have been granted Fulbright scholarships, Fulbright grants. So we have 19 students going to the United States this September. We have 15 scholars, and we have 11 Fulbright faculty and research fellows going. So that's those are big numbers. That's all good news. That is more innovation more opportunity for innovation in Ukraine. Besides that, we have 12 students coming, 2 Fullbright public policy fellows coming, and 10 scholars coming. So that's a big presence in Ukraine as well. So today I want to listen to you about how we can structure October 12th so that it is really that we are really a force to be reckoned with. One of the things that I'm struggling with is how do we, як ми стукаємо в двері президентської адміністрації, в Кабмін, в парламент, to show them that there's all this expertise out there. You may not be getting millions of dollars in aid, but you have the human capital that's necessary for change. So I'd like to hear from you what kind of topics we should approach on October 12th. What we would like to ask, we're asking for the presidential administration to recognize Fullbright as a force of change in Ukraine, either with a proclamation, a declaration, on nakaz or whatever. We know that the financial aspect is difficult, but we also know that we can have our Fulbrighters come in as advisors on various topics to the presidential administration, to the cabinet of ministers. You may not necessarily want to work in a government institution because of a variety of reasons, but there's no reason why your voice can't be heard. What we did with the Revolution of Dignity was to show that this is a democracy, this is a country that wants to be part of Europe, this is a country that has people whose voices need to be listened to. That's the beauty of, I think, Fullbright, the exchange of ideas, the exchange of experience that we can share in Ukraine. So I'd like to open up the forum. I don't know, Christiane, how are we on time? Can we, do we need to
We're
form
waiting
our
for one of
roundtables?
the panelists
Okay,
still.
so we can
yeah.
I'd like to then, what I'd really like to hear is, I'd like to hear from you how, we can get the ear of the presidential administration, the ear of various ministries, what you'd like to see, because the 25th anniversary of the Fullbright program in Ukraine is your celebration. It's because of you that we're celebrating 25 years. So I'd like to hear from you how you would see this. Like I mentioned, we have a few topics. We have the roundtable discussion with rectors and Fulbrighters participating about reform and change in reform. We have a guest lecture by Alan Goodman. We still haven't figured out where that guest lecture will be, but we'd like him to reach a wide audience. We have a Jubilee book that is coming out also for the anniversary, and I think all of you have gotten the request to send in how Fullbright changed my life, either with a photo or with a short essay or a few sentences. I think everybody got that. The deadline was April 30th, but we're willing to extend if somebody has not written and wants to write a few sentences for us. Because really, it will be a compilation that we will be sending not only to Ukrainian institutions, Ukrainian government, other universities, also to the Fullbright Alumni Association in the United States, the Fullbright a board of trustees, the State Department, Congress. We have a lot of senators and congressmen who have had Fulbrights and know the importance of Fulbright. And I have to emphasize that the power of lobbying a program in the U.S. Congress is very important. It's the reason why we have the Fullbright program this year, because there was Fullbright Advocacy Day in March, and there'll be another Fullbright Advocacy Day in November on the Hill in Washington, D.C., where representatives from 155 countries, as well as representatives of the Fullbright Alumni Association, go to Washington and tell them how important this program is. And really, in the budget of the U.S. government, it's like 0.5%, if not even, maybe you know the statistics better, but it's a very small percentage, but it does so much good, and it so promotes tolerance and diversity. in not only in academia, but in everyday life, in communities, and so on. So I would like to also encourage you, letters of, we always encourage our U.S. Fulbright scholars and students going back to the United States to make sure they write to their congressman what a great experience the Fulbright was in the country. And we've had a very good response from our U.S. Fulbrighters who do write, because it really does make a difference. They really do read your letters. They really do promote that when it's time for budget reviews in Congress. So I can't emphasize the importance of putting Fulbright out there. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it is very important that that you let your institutions, the institutions that you're at, they pass it on to congressmen. What really helps a lot, too, is a lot of our U.S. Fulbrighters go back to their communities and write up stories about their experience for their community newspaper. And that keeps everything in focus, in vision, and when it's time to lobby for bigger support for the Fulbright program, that really does help. So I'd like to hear your ideas. What would make our Jubilee 25th anniversary, our silver anniversary Jubilee worth doing? What would we like to see happening at the Fulbright Jubilee?
Thank you. May I? Kind of as a moot point, I'd like to suggest kind of the following issue to be discussed during the conference. As a department chair, I faced kind of the very intriguing and challenging thing that, we adopted several years ago the new law on higher education, and it's quite progressive. It's not ideal, but it's the way to go. But then I discovered that the thing is, and kind of the most the most important and huge stumbling block on the way towards modernizing Ukrainian universities, Ukrainian higher education, is not just some outside forces like Ministry of Education, Cabinet of Ministers, or someone else, someone evil out there. There is an evil force inside universities, and it's rarely addressed. It's university red tape. Even most progressive universities are kind of mired in tons of paperwork and street-level bureaucracy, which has not been changed. And it's kind of my experience at KPI. And again, KPI is a technical university. Our rector, our university president, is extremely progressive guy, but rectors cannot control everything. There are zillions of petty bureaucrats on the ground, which basically decide which way we will go and develop or undevelop. And my experience show that these dealings with these petty bureaucrats are often counterproductive, and they're a real stumbling block on the way towards progress and modernization of higher education in this country. Let me give you some examples without naming names, but there are guys at my university who are in their 80s. For some reason, quite a few of them are graduates of military academies. One of them was a recipient of cadet scholarship named after Stalin. He's in his 80s. He's a brilliant guy. He's a pleasant guy, but he's focused in the past. On the past. Kind of his mindset was formed during mid-century, during Stalin era. And it's extremely difficult for him kind of to fit, to adapt to new changing environment. And given that he's got considerable powers and authority in his hand, he's imposing his will on realities, on academics, on academic divisions at my university. And I don't think this is an exception. I think this is rather the rule at most of Ukrainian universities, and this is not a pleasant thing to talk. And quite a few rectors are kind of interested and support these guys, kind of very experienced apparatchiks, because they know how to get things done all the way, but they know how to achieve something. They know how to produce these tons of paperwork, which is also required by the Ministry of Education. But often this paperwork comes at the initiative of the university administration. And I think this should be addressed, because right now we are kind of being torn between mutually exclusive requirements. On the one hand, and we have to publish like hell at international peer-reviewed journals, and at the same time we have to produce tons of absolutely useless papers at request of these local university PT bureaucrats, and it's extremely time-consuming. Again, these agendas are mutually exclusive, and you cannot do both at once. You either do research, you publish, you are networking with your colleagues globally, or you are stuck doing this absolutely useless paperwork, and something has to be done. Frankly speaking, I don't have a kind of a recipe how to get rid of this, but I am pretty positive that we should be talking about this, and we should address and challenge Ukrainian university presidents with this issue, and basically tell them bluntly that this is the huge problem which hampers the development of universities, of faculties and students, because being focused on this useless paperwork, we cannot deliver on research, on teaching, on kind of a substantive job of academics. Thank you.
Pani Marta, I think that then even the previous presenter said that so we have some problems. And then as a cognitive science, who has something to do with structuring information and organizing information in comprehensive wholes, I think that here we have to identify these problems and I guess that we can address the universities, asking them what problems do you have at your universities. This is one of them. Lots of paperwork. Then, by the way, in American universities, in Australian universities, and other universities, as far as I know, bureaucracy is also quite sufficient. But however, this is one of the problems. Then another problem is that we have to do something with the quality of our education, because the content of this education leaves much to be desired. It is mildly, to put it mildly, so to say, yeah. And the level of knowledge of our students is rather low, to tell the truth. And why? Either the teachers are bad, or probably the curricula are not so very good. So what is to be done here? Yeah. So first, I guess we should locate the problems which we have to solve. Then we can address the Fullbright alumni to group somehow to make up some groups which can come up with the solutions with the hypothetical solutions of these problems. For example, I could join the group of teaching languages or just political studies, how to psychology. So that field in which I'm competent, yeah. But first, we have a number of problems. There are many, but we can reduce this list to some 6-5 problems, the most sufficient ones. And the groups are formed around these problems, and they come up with their proposals as to what can be done in Ukraine. And these groups and the representatives of these groups can make presentations at this conference to come up with some solutions which are constructive. What is to be done and I think that it's true that the leaders of the universities and probably the Minister of Education. My first Fulbright was in I didn't tell that but my first Fulbright was in 1995. My second Fulbright was in 2000. And since 1995, the discussion is the same. The ministry doesn't hear us. The government doesn't hear us. We know actually we are the elite of this educational community, but we are we are not. Our knowledge is not required here. Yeah. Well, so we should make ourselves somehow more conspicuous more noticeable to the governments what is to be done here then? So to invite them, so just then to tell them about us, yeah, to represent us, then to show who we are, and then so I wanted then just then 2 words about the Fullbright program, that especially in my life. Then so I'm from Cherkasy National University. I didn't tell that then, and this is my alma mater. And then so, but however, then so I think that I'm a citizen of the world. Then in both in Ukraine and in the United States. Then because then here in cognitive science we have the theory of conceptual integration, and then it is a very explanatory theory. It says that then we have one input space. Then how do new things appear? How do emergent? Then the title of my Lena, I'm working on it. Then so where is Pani Olena? I'm working on this essay, yeah. And the essay is called then the Fullbright program, the maker of emergent personalities. Yeah, so the new personalities, this is a blend then so of Ukrainian science, Ukrainian education, Ukrainian heritage, and American science, American education, American heritage. And when we so come from our Fullbright program, then so we are different persons. I believe that Americans then who come from Ukraine are also different persons. Then, and this is very important then so for us then as personalities, the new personalities then which have to integrate in this global world, then so which has to solve some global problems, then not just to do something so just then мышиная возня, so local then so something local which is then so good for nothing at the universities. But at the conference, I guess then we should identify these problems then so which we have to decide then, and gather the people then so who can solve that.
Thank you. One thing that I did not mention that I wanted to mention is that the Alumni Association Department at the State Department awarded us, the Fullbright Circle, our Alumni Association, a grant to specifically have our Fulbrighters travel around Ukraine delivering lectures on their expertise or on the Fullbright program itself, targeted at universities that probably have not seen Fulbrighters, including the 17 displaced universities from the occupied territories, including universities in Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, the resettled areas. So we want to get our message out that way. It's one thing when an American comes to a university, and I've had this experience many times. You come to a university, you talk about the Fullbright program, and they tell you, oh, well, that works for people from Kyiv or Lviv, but in Zaporizhia, I'm never going to get a Fullbright. Or in smaller towns or areas like in Kropivnitsk, that works for other people, but it's not going to work for me. Well, I like to tell them that if you don't buy the lottery ticket, you're not going to win the lottery. You don't even have a chance at winning the lottery. So we want to target, we want Ukrainian Fullbright scholars, Ukrainian Fullbright students, researchers going to these universities and saying, I'm a living example. I went to the United States and that changed my life. And I came back because I think one of the important things about the Fullbright program is it's not only taking from the US, but it's giving back once you come back to Ukraine. And it's not only going to the United States and then trying to outsmart the system to stay in the United States. And fortunately for Ukraine, we don't have an example of that very often, but once in a while, we get examples. We had a student 2 years ago who said she was from Poltava. She couldn't come back to Ukraine because there was a war. Well, I've been to Poltava recently. I didn't see any war there. So they use various examples to try to outsmart this. That is not the priority. That is not the Fullbright program. That's not the reason for the Fullbright program. The reason for the Fullbright program is to not only share what Ukraine is in the United States, and to this day there are people in the United States that don't know where Ukraine is and what it's about, but it's also to get the best from what you saw in the United States, bring it back to Ukraine and share it here. That's why I love America House, because that's really a place where you can feel the best of what's American and the best of what's Ukrainian. So I'm very proud of the fact that we were able to, the Fullbright Circle was able to get this Fullbright alumni grant and it's an opportunity for all of you to get your way paid for, a small honorarium, lodging in various other cities. And I don't particularly want people from Lviv going to Kyiv, because Lviv, Kyiv, you go to each other's cities all the time. I want people from Lviv to go to the Donetsk University in Donetsk National University, relocated in Vinnytsia. I want people to go to Kramatorsk, to Artemivsk, to other places where maybe people have never seen what goes on. I mean, I have to tell you this funny little story that I heard recently. There was a family going on a bus trip, a family of displaced Ukrainians from the Donbass, going on a bus tour through Ukraine onto Europe. And one of the little boys, they get to Lviv, and he calls his mom, who stayed behind in eastern Ukraine. He says, "Mom, I'm in Europe," and everybody here speaks Ukrainian. That's so they assume that Lviv is already Europe. So there's a lot of changes happening, positive changes, and I'd like us to highlight those kinds of changes.
Thanks. Just want to follow up on my colleague's remark, and I think it's also extremely important issue, especially in the age or years of severe budget constraints. It's the thing that we've got too many universities in this country, and we have to address this, and quite a few of these universities are universities only by name. Yet they get their share of funding. The funding is mediocre, but given that the huge number of these higher education establishments, it gets worse for relatively advanced universities, because the ministry is trying to spread resources evenly. And at the end of the day, you've got universities or pseudo-universities which have really bad quality, and they got their chunk of funding, and they undermine the resource base of better universities. And again, this got to be addressed, and the number of universities in this country has to be downsized dramatically. And we all know these so-called higher educational establishments. Again, I'm not going to name names, but I've been involved into some accreditation inspection visits initiated by the Ministry of Education at these universities, and I've been just appalled. It's appalling. It's beyond belief. So, but again, there is very little has been done, to address and to change the situation.
I'm sorry. I think just one more, and then we should.
Concerning a question how to celebrate better the 25th anniversary, I would like to draw your attention to the idea that have been put forward, but to my mind needs further development and elaboration. I think that the best way to celebrate is to promote the results obtained by the alumni of the Fullbright program. I think that representatives from financial, business and governmental circles should be invited as wide as possible. Representatives from Ukrainian bodies, American bodies, and maybe from other countries. From my side, I am ready to deliver a lecture representing results obtained within my Fulbright research and their possible applications in humanities, science and technology.
Okay, so I'll just conclude this section by saying that we will, Olenka, who helps administer our Fulbright Circle, the Alumni Association, anybody who hasn't joined, the dues are only 300 hryvnia a year, so I encourage all of you to join. Here's my little commercial. 300 hryvnia a year to be not only put on the mailing list, but be able to apply for a small grants program, which is something else that our Fulbright Alumni Association does. We get $10,000 a year to distribute on a quarterly basis for travel and publications. So that's another way, if you are a member of the Fulbright alumni community, Fulbrightівське коло, you can also apply for these kinds of grants. And we are hoping that our numbers will continue. We have about 300 members, but we have 1,000 Ukrainians that have been to the United States, so we're hoping that our numbers can grow and more people will apply as we highlight 25 years of success and challenges for the Fulbright program.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you, Ina. Thank you all for your initial feedback and comments. I think we could keep going for quite a while, but it's time now to transition to the panel discussion portion of our event. So I would like to invite our panelists to the front. Olena Shapovalova is director of the Ukrainian State Center for International Education. She is currently focusing on international student recruitment in her work. And prior to joining the center, Olena led the international cooperation at Karazina Kharkiv National University. So Olena, thank you so much for joining us today. I'll just invite all of the panelists up, and then I'm going to have each of you give some opening comments, okay, and presentations. So also on our panel, we have Sergei Kurbatov, who you've already met. He's a researcher currently leading the Department of Leadership and Institutional Development at the Institution of Higher Education. He is also serving as vice chairperson of the National Agency for Quality Assurance in Ukraine. He's an alumnus of the Fullbright Junior Faculty Program, through which in 2003 to 2004, he conducted research at Brown University. And finally, we have Liz from Education USA, the senior advisor at Education USA. She is a longstanding educational expert and also an alumna of the Fullbright Graduate Student Program, which enabled her to study and conduct research in international education at George Washington University. So we were already talking about hearing from government representatives, and here we have a chance to speak with them to continue our discussion. We know there are a lot of reforms going on right now in higher education in Ukraine, but one of the main reforms that we're going to focus on today is the internationalization of higher education. So I want this panel discussion to be seen as a way, not just passive, like let's just listen to the panelists, and but I want you to be engaged. So really be thinking about how we can work together, how we can brainstorm future activities as a community, how the Fulbright alumni and educational institutions can help educational institutions in Ukraine, how we can work with the network of U.S. institutions of higher educations, and how we can, what is the role of our network in internationalizing science and teaching in higher education. So keep that in mind, be thinking of that, but we're going to start by hearing from each of the panelists. And as I understand, you each have some presentations prepared, and then we'll open it up to questions from the rest of you, anything you would like to ask our panelists. Let's begin with hearing from Olena.
Okay, well, I have some presentation. It's possible to show it, and
The last our tech support.
Then I will start from the lady from Cherkasy. You were talking about that nobody needs Fulbright alumni, or kind of like this. And
one thing, just you need to speak into the microphone.
Actually, locally, then so probably in Kyiv, then so when we gather together, when we have our Fulbright circle, then so when we come together and discuss different problems, that's okay.
But I believe you do the difference. You really something that make Ukraine better, and I'm very happy that you're not in Kyiv but in Cherkasy, because you're doing this in Cherkasy, and other teachers and other students, they take you as an example, and that is something really very good, that there is such an opportunity for others to see you, to speak to you, and so that you can share your ideas. So I do really believe you make a difference.
You should say that to my rector.
Okay, no problem. I can do this. Well, I just like to tell some points about. How can I do it? Okay, yeah. So I'm representing the Ukrainian State Center for International Education. That is, I will tell about my center a little bit later. But just to give a general overview about the situation we have with the international students in Ukraine. You all have been to the United States and have seen how international community is in the universities. And you probably do know that in our universities, we'll still have a huge opportunities to develop this sphere. So in Ukraine, there is only 64,000 international students from 147 countries. And if you look at the scheme, you can see that before, like the situation in Ukraine in We have that, grow up level. But then nowadays we're coming back and trying to, again, promote Ukraine on the international area, showing that our education is a quality education and we are very welcome international students. And I'm very happy that in many universities there are many English-speaking programs. Almost 30% of those students studying in Ukraine study in English. And nowadays these are mainly medicine. But I hope that other specialties, humanitarian spheres, will also develop these English-speaking programs so that it will attract international community, not only to cooperate with us, but also to send students on academic mobility programs and just to get the higher education in Ukraine. So these are the top 10 countries of a region of international students in Ukraine. And traditionally, it used to be only post-Soviet countries. Last year, Turkmenistan was around 10,000 students. This year, it's only 6,500 students. So we really see that Ukraine is becoming more globally like Indian students, Chinese students are those students who travel a lot. And they used to get education abroad. So I'm very happy that Ukraine is also becoming a country not when only post-Soviet countries are coming to study in Ukraine, but also some other countries like India, Morocco, Georgia, Nigeria, Jordan, China, and Egypt are also those countries that are the top 10 countries of origin of international students. Unfortunately, if we look at this top 10, and if we think about European countries, for example, and the United States, if we talk about international mobility, academic mobility, these are mainly students from the European Union and the United States. But when we look at these students that are coming to Ukraine to get the higher education, like the whole course, these are only around 2,000 students from the United States and from the European Union altogether. So it's like less than 2% almost. So that's really very low number. This is the fields of study in Ukraine that's the most popular. You see medicine. There are two medicines here. This because then the name was Medicina и лікувальна справа. Like in Ukraine we have these different specialty names, but in English that is all both are medicine. We also have preparatory courses. 5,000 students are studying at the preparatory courses, but most of them are actually like around 30% are choosing medical sphere as their priority to study in Ukraine. And I would like to tell you about Ukrainian State Center for International Education. I have an honor to represent today. And it was established in 2003. But since last year, we decided to renew the whole idea of the center. And we have started the new website, studyingukraine.gov.ua. That has all the necessary information about all of the universities in Ukraine. So while going to the website studyingukraine.gov.ua, you can find all of the information about all of the universities so that the students can really check the universities, can try to find some programs and try to get to know more about Ukrainian opportunities for study. Also short-term programs used to be published on the website. And our center is the only official Ukrainian government source of information on studying in Ukraine for international students. And it's very important because, as you know, there are many companies or agents trying to promote Ukraine abroad on a private basis, recruiting foreign students and representing several universities. They have agreement, or even maybe they do not have this agreement, but just they think that they can earn money on this. So that's why we think that it's very important to develop a kind of all-national base of program to promote Ukraine altogether. And it is something really new. Our center is very small. We have around 15 workers that do all of the work. And it's actually admission process. We also provide, that is information process, this is statistics. This is airport pickup. We also have a person in our airport that is trying to help international students if they say that, and give us information about their time of arrival. And all stuff like this. We have only 15 workers, and our team is very small, but we're really trying to do our best. And since last year, we also had a call for a volunteering program in the center. And I just would like also to introduce our volunteer from Australia. Anton used to come last year for us to Ukraine to help us with our center to promote Ukraine, and he was also helping with our website. And he was the one to come on for 3 months, as you know, the Australian students do not, and Australian citizens do not need visa to come for Ukraine for 3 months. But then he liked Ukraine so much, so he stayed, and now we're trying since today, he is an official part of our team, and he got visa and he got all postvika. It was very difficult for him, by the way, even being an Australian, to get Ukrainian visa, to get Ukrainian postvika, because he was the one to need visa to get a job. So it was like totally huge program, and he can tell about this whole stages of evil, you know, to get this situation. But what I want to say is that we really need your help. And we really need help of those people you probably know in the United States or your colleagues abroad that are promoting their education or university, so that we can share this knowledge among the universities. Or we can think about how can we promote Ukraine on an international area, so that people will know about Ukrainian opportunities. I don't mean only about studying, but also doing research, collaboration. That is something that we really hope that our website will become such a hub, so that the students and the teachers can go and search about Ukraine, can find some kind of opportunities. And you as alumni, Fullbright alumni, can also propose some kind of programs you would like to have, like summer programs, short-term programs, or maybe you have some kind of MOOC programs that are open online courses for those who would like to know something more about Ukraine in different spheres. So that's really, we hope that you can share this information with us. We also started an English-speaking club for all of the international students studying in Ukraine, and all Ukrainians can also join. So if you would like to be a part of this English-speaking club, you're also very welcome. We have all of our contacts here. You can contact us via Facebook, telephone, website, email, and we'll be very happy if you can become a part of our team also, so that together we can make our promotion of Ukraine worldwide better. Thank you. Just like a short overview so that we can discuss more. I guess it's more important for this. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Elena. Next, let's hear from Sergei Korbatov. And you also have a presentation prepared, as I understand. No.
I would be just do an oral
speaking.
Presentation.
Okay, that works as well.
Have this thing. So what I want to start, I want to start from my general visit of the role in internationalization in concept of university. Again, if you recall the classical concept of university, which was elaborated by Wilhelm von Humboldt in the early 19th century, the main function of university is teaching and research. So, and this basic classical model, like 10 years ago, inspired me to look at university through the lenses of two philosophical categories, time and space. So university in temporal dimension and university in spatial dimension. What do we have if we analyze university through these lenses of temporal dimension? Again, teaching and research. We return to Wilhelm von Humboldt. What is teaching? Teaching is a process of translating knowledge from the past. We could teach only the thing which already exists. We could something which already become a knowledge. So it's translating knowledge from the past, and it's a kind of unity with certain tradition, cultural, social, etc. What is the research? If we do research, we have no knowledge. We are looking for a new knowledge. And here we have very interesting contradiction between, not contradiction, maybe a unity and a contradiction also between teaching as a translation of knowledge from the past and research as a translation knowledge from the future. So these two wings of university need to be in balance. If we analyze current approaches to the university, the challenges of contemporary civilization, the social, economical, and other demand enforced university to be research institution. But again, it's a big problem, especially in our case, when we have this tradition of separation of research in the system of Academy of Sciences and looking at university more as a teaching institution. So to find this balance between teaching and research in contemporary model of Ukrainian university, in contemporary model which is extremely important of elite Ukrainian university, because I am entirely sure that without elite segment of university education, we could not make a great progress in integration into global educational space. So this temporal university. And now we come to internationalization as at spatial intersection, as I called it. Yeah, and if you look at history, university usually are established with the shaping of national state. So university is an institution which affiliated with certain national tradition. For sure, the first university was established in late Middle Ages and they have international character, but this is like a wave of historical development which also are very interesting. But what do we have in our life since the middle of the 20th century? We have starting of the process of globalization, so certain overcoming of this national boundaries. And if you look at the university which was established during the time of national state, the most bright example of such university is French model of university, or Napoleon model, if you recall it, which show state bureaucratic apparatus to maintain its function. And the university was the place where the people collected, where people work with certain discourses of national culture, certain traditions, certain folklore, etc. And since the second half of the 20th century, its globalization and internationalization is a kind of response to globalization in this academic area. So again, recall temporal intersection, teaching and research. Here at spatial intersection, we have very interesting contradiction and unity, again, between national and international in university life. And if you look at contemporary civilization in contemporary situation in academia, university pressed to be more and more internationalized. So, and it's important to find the balance between national and international in university life. So if you go to the identification of what is internationalization, I like here the definition of Jane Knight, which become classical in English-speaking tradition of understanding of internationalization. Internationalization is incorporated of this transnational global component in the main dimensions of university activity, in curricula, in structure, etc. So it's a kind of looking again for certain balance between national and international and academic life. And again, the problem is how to identify this balance in concrete Ukrainian case. So this was a kind of philosophical introduction to my vision of internationalization. I think it's extremely important for successful development of Ukrainian university and Ukrainian academia. And the second half of my presentation would be much more pragmatic and much more so-called down to earth. I was asked to speak about our National Agency for Higher Education Quality Assurance, and I tried to prove the argument that our national agency could be a powerful tool in internationalization of Ukrainian higher education. So, as you know, somebody already mentioned here this historical law on higher education, which was adopted in 2014. And according to this law, for the first time in Ukrainian history, it was possibility to establish collegial body, independent collegial body, which is responsible for quality assurance and quality enhancement of higher education. So if you translate забезпечення, there are many specialists in English language, what is assurance or enhancement, because again, if you look at English language tradition of evaluation of quality, there is assessment, there is assurance, and there is enhancement. So like the забезпечення, it seems to me somewhere between assurance and enhancement. It's not total enhancement, includes this component of assurance, but at the same time, it's not totally assurance, it's something more. So what is the mechanism of creation of this agency? It's very democratic, and perhaps this is explanation why it's difficult to start work of this institution. So the member of agencies, 25 members, they all are elected from different stakeholders of higher education. We have representative of our state university, we have representative of our private university, we have representative even of our communal university, we have representative of National Academy of Sciences, we have 5 representatives of areas Academy of Sciences, we have representatives of student self-governments, and we have also representative of employee organization. So all main stakeholders delegate their representative to this national agency. What is why national agency could be the tool for internationalization of Ukrainian higher education? I think with such agency, if it would be really, I understand that totally independent, it's impossible to be totally independent in society if you are part of social structure, if you depend on those who delegate you to represent their interest, but so-called more or less representative, it's not rational, but relate to situation which we often faced in our work. So more or less independent. We have a kind of attempt to diversify the power relation in system of management of higher education, because new institution arise, institution which don't depend directly from our official, from rector. People mention this rector feudalism, which we unfortunately sometimes have in Ukraine, and maybe not only some, but this is additional story. So, and at the same time, it's if you look at law about higher education, if you analyze the main function of university, there is a possibility really to create something new. I recall here the famous work of Jamil Salmi, establishing world-class university, where he identifies 3 models of building world-class university. The first model, like find the best university and provide support with them, financial first of all, it's like China way. They did this and were more or less successful, at least in university ranking. The second model is to identify units in different universities which perform in the best way, unite them and create a world-class university. And the third model, according to Jamil Salmi, he said, this is the most potential, it's most interesting and really model which create really new institution, but it's extremely difficult. Start from zero level, from tabula rasa, and build new university, which is extremely expensive again. Something like this we have with our National Agency for Higher Education Quality Assurance, new institution, without this corrupted post-Soviet tradition, I need to say, which unfortunately we have, which without these bureaucratic prerequisites, which again we need to follow if we follow certain tradition. Yeah? So it's a big challenge for Ukrainian higher education system, a big opportunity, and at the same time a big threat, because the level of expectation was high. Now we have 3 years passed since this law was adopted, and we unfortunately just start our work. But again, this is the reflection how difficult process are going in our environment. And at the same time, as I recall here, this not philosophical, but common sense wisdom, step by step. Step by step, this the movement in right direction, I think. And just as an illustration of this point, I think it would be interesting for colleague, our main activities, currently at least, majority of our meeting of national agency was devoted to the problem of accreditation of educational program. Again, a big innovation of our law about education, how to accreditate educational program. And here we start to do this again to some extent from zero level, and we took, I saw in the hand of somebody, this HCG, European Standards and Guidelines, which was adopted during Yerevan Conference of Ministers of Higher Education of European countries. And they provide us with criteria and indicator how to do this accreditation and other process of external and internal quality assurance and European area of higher education and European area of research. And this is, at least, by the way, I invite you to, we'll have a round table on accreditation of the 18th of May this year at Institute of Higher Education, National Academy of Educational Science of Ukraine. We would present our vision of accreditation, and we also invited a few experts of in this area of accreditation to join us and to contribute in this discussion. So what I need to say again, to some extent, why I mentioned this process of election of member of national agency. To some extent, it seems to me to attempt to enforce the process of creation of civil society in academic area. So, and we were elected, and we are ready to work, but we need support from academic audience, and we already have conversation in Fullbright office. Again, we want to incorporate as much foreign experience at this initial state as possible, and again to create this new model which would serve the Ukrainian future and which would provide our country a real opportunity to join European higher education area and European research area. So we plan to have a kind of public discussion before each document, any important document would be produced by national agency. And I encourage you to participate in this discussion. I encourage you to share your experience and to make our newborn institution stronger and powerful tool, and in so-called, I like this term, reloading to some extent of Ukrainian system of higher education. I understand it is extremely difficult. I understand that there are many interests which don't coincide with this dimension toward European area of higher education and global educational space. But I have a dream, as Martin Luther said. And I hope, thank you very much, we are open for cooperation, and I think here regarding the celebration of the 25th anniversary of Fullbright program in Ukraine, I think maybe it would be one possible idea to organize a kind of round table maybe or workshop with the members of National Agency for Higher Education, Quality Assurance and Fulbright alumni in order to discuss document which would be already produced from one hand, from the other hand to discuss the area of further activity, to discuss the optimal way, because we are in unique situation. I remember when I for the first time see stereoscopic cinema and this impression that you are now we have 3D, it's much more advanced, but it was many years ago, and like you have totally different reality. So why I use this metaphor? If it's your own vision, it's something flat. If this is a vision of community, moreover, and vice community of Fulbright alumni, it's very close to reality. And it's a wave of real reform of our system of higher education. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see there's a lot of interest in getting engaged in the conversation right now, but please write down your thoughts, your questions, and hold them for a little bit longer. And let's hear from Liz, Shipton Likova. Yes. You have a presentation to share also with us today, so please go.
Yeah, I'm going to try to make it as brief as possible and so much more down to earth. I think we're having also a time-related kind of thing going on in the panel because I'm not even a year back from the United States to Ukraine, so I'm honest, being absolutely frank, sometimes I think I actually took the job at Education USA to simplify my cultural transition at last. Because until this very day, I feel myself so much more comfortable reading university world news than trying to figure out what's happening with internationalization of higher education in Ukraine. Nevertheless, as a part of my Fulbright experience and as a person who is still engaged in international education activities in Ukraine, I was offered an amazing opportunity in November last year to join the conference of the European Network of Alumni of U.S. government exchange programs for a thematic conference that was actually focused on internationalization and the role of Fulbright alumni community. I have to admit, I think I came back with more questions than answers in the end of the day, but I really thought bringing in a little bit of a wider Fulbright alumni community perspective to this discussion could be interesting to help us also to think outside of the Ukrainian dimension of the community and the outside of the framework of Ukrainian higher education reform. It's been a painful 2 years writing that law on higher education, but I think to some extent it's more painful right now hearing about the struggles of its implementation every single day. When I got back to Ukraine last year, I was thinking constantly about the way to live up to the mission and the brand of the Fulbright program that is so strong in the United States, but so underappreciated to many extent here in Ukraine. That continues to be the big question in the back of my mind. And that was one of the reasons I thought it would be a great opportunity to learn from the other Fulbright alumni in Europe what they see as the way to contribute from their experiences, from their knowledge to their local communities. It has been an eye-opening to me that many of the alumni that come together in alumni associations across Europe do struggle to translate their experience in the US into their local context, However, at the same time, they find many creative ways to share their experiences and to bring their network to be more transformative in their communities. So, to some extent, I think the major lesson I've learned so far has been the fact that staying as a community does enable us to learn from each other and to move forward. There were some very interesting examples of Fulbright alumni projects and success stories of the influence that Fulbright alumni have in Europe. I recall a very great project. Some representatives from Balkan countries presented in November in Budapest. They were speaking about reconnecting with the US community that was hosting their Fulbrighters to come to their country every year for summer and to run summer schools on various topics for young people in the country, making a difference in that way in their community, increasing the opportunities for people to learn about both the Fulbright program and the variety of different soft skills and very much life skills that are so much needed in this day's environment to young people in particular. But it is also very important to understand, I think, and to acknowledge for us how much at this point, even with the example of this workshop, we as an alumni community are still dependent on the post on the US Embassy because that is our major source of support these days. And whether or not there is a greater network of potential partners that we could build relationship with, that's another question, I guess, that I came back with, thinking about how could we expand the network. And this does really relate to what Marta was talking about earlier. How do we work with the national governmental bodies? How do they see us as the alumni community? And finally, I do want to point out that it's also very interesting to see how even regionally, alumni communities are structured so differently. It's a great group of Fulbrighters here with one SUSY alumni. I worked in the US on SUSY, so that's cool for me to see an alumni of that program here. But in countries like Moldova or Azerbaijan, alumni associations are absolutely mixed. The communities do include various alumni of US government exchange programs that are, anywhere from Flex all the way to IVLP. And that is definitely bringing a little bit of a different flavor, right? So one of my questions that came up after my visit was, how do we as a Fulbright community find ways to collaborate with the alumni of various other programs? I'm absolutely guilty at Education USA of engaging alumni and building on their resource for various reasons, anywhere from having tons of Flex alumni volunteer at our higher education fairs in fall to having absolutely amazing Fulbright alumni, as you are, volunteering tomorrow at our Education USA alumni fairs. So there are many ways in which we could be very much enriching our experiences and our work, as if we also do collaborate with folks outside of Fulbright and other exchange program alumni. But here in Ukraine, when in my everyday work I think about internationalization and I think about the way Fulbright community could make a difference, the first thing that comes to my mind, and I would actually love Olena's input on this, is addressing stereotypes. I was struck by that case of this very talented researcher at the National Academy of Science who has been very popular recently. I'm sorry I cannot recall her name, but maybe somebody in the audience will be able to help me. She's the youngest doctor of science in Ukraine these days, and yeah, that's right. And in one of the interviews, she was asked if she's ever gonna go to study abroad or to do her research abroad. And she said, no, I wanna contribute here in Ukraine. In my mind, going outside of your comfort zone, going outside and meeting the new research community, working in a different environment only makes you a stronger, a more knowledgeable, more experienced researcher and allows you to contribute more both to your environment and to other places around the world. Call me maybe a global citizen, but I'm really struggling with this oftenly negative connotation of international education in Ukraine, where sometimes it's treated as, if you're leaving your country, not being patriotic enough or anything and everything because you're going somewhere else, versus understanding how much it's not really brain drain, it's really brain circulation, and it's really opportunity to learn from others, to contribute to others' work, and to make all of this a much better, more advanced world, in a sense, and to bring all of those experiences back to your place. And then, obviously, I think one of the other very important topics to me, especially since I'm the international education person, is really advancing this narrative of internationalization and helping universities in the first place to understand it as wider spectrum of things than just recruiting international students, because in the end of the day, sometimes in Ukraine in particular, discussion ends up being so commercial oriented and speaking about the finance that can be gained from international students versus building study abroad or exchange programs, building partnerships, building research partnerships, and gaining so much more from these experiences that internationalization allows, building on the Fullbright alumni experiences that they're bringing to your institutions. I was fascinated to hear that almost every single person here is connected to a higher education institution in the end of the day. So that is the second point that I think I was personally, at last, the most strict to be invested in and to see as the very big potential for contributed from the Fullbright community in the end of the day. And I'm going to throw it out here for Sergey because I really think there's a lot of ways in which Fullbright community can contribute also to strategic understanding of both internationalization and future higher education development in Ukraine, and particularly because the former minister was a Fullbright alumni. We all remember Sergey Kvit still, because you guys are now in the national agency having many potentially powerful instruments to impact the situation. You have 2 alumni there already. 25, which is good. So I really feel that as the community, there are ways for us to also contribute on this national level, and finding instruments like that and opportunities and making use of them could be very joyful, at least to me and my little international ad fan heart. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for coming once again.
Thank you, Liz. So thank you to all of the panelists for sharing your initial thoughts and talking about your work. At this point, I'd like to open up to the rest of you, what questions you have. I know there were already some questions. So Nastya is here with the microphone. If you have a question, please raise your hand and we'll come around. So we have one right here.
It's some corrections. As a historian, I must to say that our universities and our higher education institutes and academia also are the institutions that came from imperial and totalitarian state. It's not our national institution in 25 years ago or 30 years ago. So we must understand our problems, because even former specialist in the history of the Soviet and the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, now the chairs even well-known universities, not speaking about lecture in it, a professor and so on. It's also problems. It's the generation problems, but problems from the past. Also, here the speaker understands it very well, but most correct.
Kharkiv
Sometimes,
University at the center of Ukrainian movement at the early 19th century.
No, it's not. It's simply historical correction. So, thank you.
So we have a question here. Oh, yeah. 3 questions. Active corner.
This is both a question and a comment, and it concerns then the first presentation then about then how we should promote then our education, our science, then so at the international arena. And then so of course then probably at our universities then so we have some very qualitative centers then of education and science then but they are not that many. Probably then so this center then should help them then to advertise then so what they really have then to propose at the international arena to international students. And then this question is related then so also then to have this information about then such centers then so such so they have something to suggest then to the international community then so some interesting research then and then interesting education. Then this is the first question. And the second question is then so to the second presenter then so the main problem then so guys then it's all right then this is very good theory but this is then you look at the problem then top down. I look at the problem then so from bottom up from bottom up, yeah, because I'm from a university then so in their oblast then in Cherkasy Oblast, and this is a typical Ukrainian university, although this is a national university. And then so I work then at other universities than in Ukraine, at some Kyiv universities. I know the problem from within, and the problem is that our content of education is drastically outdated. One of my colleagues has just come from Germany, where she obtained master's degree in artificial intelligence, and she has a PhD in linguistics, and she cannot find work here in Kyiv. Then nobody wants her. She is not needed with her knowledge, with her education. And then there in Germany, she says then if yesterday, so if the future, the tomorrow and today, the past and the future, then so because then the future today is the past. In a German university, especially psychology, artificial intelligence, cognitive science, then so here in Ukraine we don't have neurolinguistics, then nothing like that. But then she says then if there is a paper, yesterday it appeared, and today this paper is in class. And when she came here, and then she works part-time then so just then for nothing at one of Kyiv universities, and she said then I'm just horrified because when I saw the list then of recommended literature, then the literature is dated then back then to the 80s. So this is the content of our education. And that's what we have to think about. To think about the content, to think about the teachers who can provide this content, because then so we are thinking about stavki.
Financial.
Yes, stavki. Because then so I don't know then so it's the job positions then so, and we cannot fire a person then if the person is absolutely non-qualified, and substitute this person with a qualified international scholar, because then stavki. Well, something is to be done in this respect. Well, this is the problem then. So we have to advertise ourselves, and we can do a lot. And of course, you're right that at my university and even in Ukraine, and not only in Ukraine, because then so I lectured then so all over this. So last year I lectured in Kazakhstan. Before I lectured inside St. Petersburg, and that's it. And then what I represent is the international then so findings then so in the field that I work in. Yeah. So I'm an international scholar, but then so in general, all my colleagues then so no. So this is just an island, but that must be a continent. Yeah.
Well, I will say. So I do really believe that's a responsibility. That is a responsibility of the professor, and this is a responsibility of the university. I'll come back to my question only, so I'll give floor to my colleague to answer the second part. But this is a kind of again about the advertisement. We as a center, like we belong to the Ministry of Education, and Of course, all of the universities know about our existence, and every center or every vice rector for international relations knows about our center because they work within the one electronic system that, I don't know, we still have, not still, we have a very new system of electronic journals. So all of the invitations are registered online, so we see them, and we are the center who register the invitation. I do really believe that this is something that the university needs to do themselves. So it's not like something really new and progressive. It's something old and kind of control. Actually, we're not controlling. That's what I want to say. We just register them, and that is something just to know the number of invitations given to students. But even though every university knows about our existence, every university gets a letter and got a letter about our new website. Cursor, please look at the website, give us information, provide us with those programs you have. And out of 300 plus universities, we got answers from around 150. And when I came to actually after the call into these universities, again letters sent several times, I came to my colleagues in the ministry and say, is it a problem with me? You know, I'm a new director, and maybe like some universities do not want to provide me this information. Say, no, that's fine. We have sent the same question about international cooperation, and we got only 80-something, like 86 answers from 300 universities. Only 80-something answers from the universities about the cooperation, international cooperation. Then we went to the university websites, trying to translate into English. Thanks again to Anton, who was helping us to do this. And there was something like searching Wikipedia to write about, faculties and programs in English. That was something that we were thinking. After we published it, some universities were again, could you please check the information we have put on the website? And even yesterday I got a comment on a Facebook page that, you still have an old name of KPI, for example. It is named after Sikorsky, but you do not have it on the website. So, okay, thank you. We'll contact the university so that if they confirm that we can change it on the website, we will change it on the website. But there's something really important. That should be a dialogue. That should be one direction. Well, I'm active, I'm interested, I'm calling the universities. But that is something that shouldn't be concentrated on one person. That should be a dialogue. And that is dialogue of the community. I believe that is a dialogue not between the rector and me as a director of the center. That is a dialogue between the team of the university. And each of you is also a team of the university. You can also provide a program you have.
It's impossible to talk to the rector.
Well, come on, I'm also an associate professor. And I'm also an associate professor in Kharkiv National University. And working here in Kyiv, I see my students really rarely, and I have my distant learning courses, and that is something I really miss. Then when I come to Kharkiv, I used to speak with them. But this is literature, everything. This depends on me. If I have if we together with the students decided to organize a summer school, on free base, to international students, that is something we try to promote, saying that, okay, we're the students of Kharkiv and we are ready to volunteer our time to show Kharkiv to foreigners. So please do come and we will arrange it for free for you. So you will have 3 classes a day. The rector, we came to rector and said, could you please allow us to use the rooms of the university for these foreigners that will come? He said yes, on a free base. So that's something that should be a dialogue. I do really believe that in dialogue you can get the results. And so if you will come to the website and see some problems within the information that is provided about your universities, that is fine. Please write us and we'll check it, change it, and so we'll add something about you, something about your programs you provide, because there is something unique that we can also publish. If not on the website, and then on the Facebook page. On the Facebook page, we can publish about, even your CV, so showing that this university has such a great professor. So that's also one of the reasons to come. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I start from your temporal statement that we need to up-to-date information before it's appear even. It's again, teaching through research. It's concept we could observe already in Gumboldt heritage, but it's not work in our context, unfortunately, especially in social sciences and humanities. And here I mentioned that we have 2 alumni of U.S. Department of State governmental programs in national agency, and my colleague Sergei Babak just returned from participation at the program Open World. And they study this implementation of academic integrity at American university, but also he has possibility to study accreditation process. And I asked him, what was the most impressive to you? And he said, when I speak with a representative of accreditation agency, again, in USA, there are 6 main regional accreditation agencies, which are totally independent. And we, by the way, study the experience of New England Association of School and Colleges. It's a really interesting fact. But what was impressive for him, the representative of this accreditation agency say, what do you want to know in detail? He say, I want to know the reason when you reject the program. And he said, we reject the program if 20% of program is not updated each academic year. If there is no a mechanism of renovation of this program, it's this 0 level. It's impossible to access this kingdom of accredited educational programs in the United States of America. Again, regarding your second question, it's understandable. I am an affiliated researcher at University of Uppsala, Sweden, and I have many friends among Swedish professors, and when they very rarely but ask me about my salary, and when I said what is my salary, I see that they don't believe me. It's a kind of body language and so it's really very sad thing in our Ukrainian context, and we even when we presented our project between Ukraine and Sweden, we even find this pattern asymmetric partnership. First of all, in financial sense, intellectually we are totally equal. Moreover, sometimes we are more stronger in certain dimensions here, at least in social sciences. But in financial case, we are really very weak, and our academia is very weak. But at the same time, what a good side of this point, if you observe current situation in Ukrainian academia, there are universities which work very good in terms of implementation of Western experience, in terms of commercialization of their product. I am originally from Sumy, by the way. I go to my Fullbright GFDP program, and before this in 1999, I participated in regional scholarship exchange program at Colorado State University. I was an assistant professor at Sumy State University. And Sumy State University, which was just a branch of Kharkiv Polytechnical Institution, in early 90s. Now it is the 7th university in Ukraine according to consolidated ranking, which is the most objective one because they take the result of our national ranking top 200. They use the result of Scopus, so publication in Scopus database, and they use the result from Webometric ranking, which evaluate university performance in virtual space, in internet. Another example, Catholic University, which is private university. We don't receive support, but in our area, humanity or social science, currently it's one of the most powerful institutions. In Lviv, yeah. And so again, there are possibility in any case would be a problem. Even Swedish colleagues complained me that they are under the pressure of commercialization. They need to seek for grants instead of very good financial support, which was traditionally during social democratic period of Swedish history. But at the same time, in our situation, we could identify this island of excellence, perhaps. And I'm sure that your group at your university in Cherkasy is a kind of island of excellence. Continent. Yeah, but But again, you remember this picture which was popular during Euromaidan, when one big fish and many small fishes. And they rearrange small fishes, and they become more powerful than one big fish. So we need to think how to unite our activities. First of all, and we again, as a kind of representative in this case of this national structure, we need to think how to support the best in financial, in social, in political to some extent term. This is the most dramatical challenge which we have currently, because I am sorry. Because we make this dramatical shift toward integration in Europe, and this is a big victory. Before this, it was much more problematic. Now we have, and all others depend on us. And here again, I think the experience of Fullbright alumni and our contribution, and a person who unite Ukrainian and American culture. And America is a leader in contemporary global educational space. So, but we could not mechanically implement this experience. We need to find a certain midline. And in this case, our mission is extremely important for further development of Ukrainian academia and for successful implementation of this, I think, very positive reform, which was started with the adoption of law about higher education, and which need to be continued, but at the same time there is a big resistance, unfortunately, to it.
So let's continue our questions.
I don't have a question, but I have just few thoughts connected to Lee's presentation. When I've been visiting Washington, D.C., I had a chance to listen to Sviatoslav Vakarchuk at Kennan Institute, and he's been giving a lecture based on his one semester at Yale University, and he's been presenting Marshall Plan for higher education in Ukraine, and that's the phrase from him. I'm saying that all the time. He's been saying that we have to send more and more young people abroad, educate them, and bring them back to Ukraine, improve our community, make it stronger, and those people with higher international education can make change in Ukrainian education. I believe that's a key to change the system.
I'll just add to that real quick. That comment does resonate with me to an extent, but it's very important to understand that it only works to an extent. And here I'm going to refer to a rather not popular out of the US and Africa instrument and concept. USAID, in their very small portion of work that they do in higher education, have this framework of human and institutional capacity building that clearly elaborates that while building human capacity and developing human capital is essential to transforming countries and nation states, without strong institutions, humans with all of their capacity would not be able to sustain the change, because there is still a flow of human capital. We all understand that today we might send 500 Ukrainians to study in the US, get the best degrees that they can, but when they return, they would be job hopping to some extent, because that's what young people do these days. So unless there are also programs and instruments in place to make sure that knowledge, ideas, and experience they bring becomes an institutional change and helps to fit in the institutions within the country, that effect they have might not be sustainable. So 100% yes, that's why I'm the international education fan. But I also think we should take this conversation further and do look at this whole picture, this whole situation from a wider picture, and speak about it with also wider community again, because one of the very interesting examples of the way HICD, the Human and Institutional Capacity Development Framework, worked is as a number of universities in Rwanda, Tanzania, that have been supported by USAID for over a decade. They have bilateral exchange programs with very specific US universities. In this case, it all went through BIFAD, which is the agricultural board mandated by the president overseeing the USAID activities. But generally speaking, those several institutions have been grown to the dramatic success over a decade or so, and they have really been transformative in their communities. And we could really learn from that experience, not oftenly looking that way, right? It's not really kind of organic for us to look up to Africa or Southeast Asia to look for a great example, but there are some.
And we have time for one more question, but now we have different, so maybe over here, back to the other side.
Thank you for stopping discrimination of the opposite side. I'm happy to see here many faces of my friends, and it's very comfortable for me to be here with you. But nevertheless, I'm not so much comfortable with the level and degree of discussions of all the problems, issues, etc. First of all, to Sergei Kurbatov, sorry, Sergei, do you think that teaching is just transferring knowledge from the teacher to students, or as Paulo Freire said, actually it's a collective work of creating a new knowledge by teachers and students together? In this case, actually, we see that Ukrainian, not only Ukrainian actually, many European universities are still Humboldtian universities, right? And because of it, we still are in this situation when we transfer our knowledge, which was for most of us, which was acquainted in 20th century, to the students who will work, who will live and work in the middle of the 21st century. So they should be capable to create their own knowledge, not to use just knowledge of their teachers. This is one thing. Another thing is that there are two representatives of administrative bodies, and I should mention that one of the Fulbrighters, he quit for 2 years, was the Minister of Education, and during that time the most significant achievement was pass of the new law on higher education, which actually does not work just due to the ministry blocking. And still we don't have the autonomy of universities, which was declared and established actually in the law. The universities are still, how to say it, maybe very dependent on the ministry. You told about changes, every year changes in curricula and programs. Sorry, 3 years ago, at Tabachnik's ruling, our department could change the educational programs and plans during one academic year. Now we can't do any changes for 5 years. Excuse me, is it a progress? Next issue. Sorry, Svetlana, it's to you. Do you think that Ukrainian professors are worth of higher salary? Do you think that we earn money which we get from the state or from the students? Sometimes I doubt. And moreover, I'm sorry that actually our production what we produce knowledge, we produce students, specialists who serve to the society, and a significant part of them just serve to themselves much more than to the society. And to add to it, tell me please whether there is such an academic discipline as economy of higher education. I tried to find at least one in Ukraine specialist in economy of higher education. I failed. I don't know whether anybody studies this new, very sharp, very urgent field of studies, economy of higher education. Now we have about 60% of commercial higher education, and actually we don't know how to get more money, how to distribute this money to the priorities in our teaching and research. Why? Because we don't have both theory and practical applied recommendations. So these are questions to both our representatives of authorities. So what makes you incapable to do all these good things which you told about here? And why actually for, I was a Fulbrighter in 2001, why for these 16 years actually almost nothing has changed in Ukrainian higher education despite a very thorough, very active functioning of our authorities? Thank you.
The question about salaries is not to me then, but it's then to the presenter. Then I did not mention the salary. But the question is vice versa. I said that the level of knowledge of our teachers is sometimes very low.
Thank you, Professor Demyanchuk. Thank you for mention. By the way, I remember this big wisdom that the lunch need to be in time, and we're already 5 minutes late for it. So my answer would be very brief. It was simplification again in my scheme, and it's due to format of presentation. For sure, we could recall Ortega y Gasset, his theory that university is a kind of place where create certain culture and certain environment, and this is the essence of university mission. So, and the question for sure it's very complicated. And regarding why there, I totally disagree with you that during last 10 years there were no changes in Ukrainian higher education. I could mention few points. We joined Bologna process, which restricted dramatically Ukrainian education and make it closer to demand of European area of higher education. We adopted національна рамка кваліфікацій, National Qualification Framework. We adopted this law about higher education, which seems to me have many positive mechanisms, but how to feel them, it depends on us, from our community, and from us as an individual, I agree. This is our responsibility.
Just one mention. Sorry. If our Ukrainian higher education has become much better than before than ever, so why 48,000 young people leave Ukraine for getting higher education in Poland, in Czech Republic, in Germany and others? Please.
Then I would like to answer very quickly. That's not always the best students. The students who are going to Poland, 90% of them are those who are going to private universities because they can go there with a very low level of ZNO, our exam, and or even without this exam. So and they just know that they will get their education on a very low level, but for a reasonable price, so-called reasonable price for 1,000 euros probably per year, and they do not care about the quality of education. Are these really those students who we really value so much and really need? So
can we keep the discussion till the lunch break so we can listen to our speakers? Thank you. Did you have any?